like Miami. Miami, 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 Miami. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Beat Podcast. That is the winner for the earliest camera malfunction of the show in show history. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today is, of course, Kenny. What's up, Kenny?
What's up, man? What's going on? I'm always here. I feel like I'm on the OG Heat Beat show, and the audio listeners can understand that in a couple seconds. But glad to be here.
Kenny with the good internet.
Finally.
And on the right, if you're watching on Twitch, you see his smiling face. If you're listening on the pod feed, you've seen his name in the description. 5 Reason Zone, Saucy Nuggets Insider, co-host of 5 on the Floor, Saucy Nuggets Insider, Lefty Leif, or as the people know him now, Greg. What up, Leif?
That sounds weird for you to say.
I'm never
Greg.
saying that again.
Yeah, like, it's so funny. Like, and happy to be here, but we're not going to go through like that. Like, this is family stuff. I'm a Heat Beat lifer too. Like, you left that off of the end of the bio there. But yes, it is dope to be here. Please call me Leif throughout the show. No more the Greg Sylvander stuff. Let's get rid of that right now. And yeah, it's Lefty Leif today.
It's Leif, dog. It's Leif. I put Lefty Leif in the little the Chiron. For those who don't know, listen, Leif, a lot of new people on Twitter, know you from 5. They don't know that, like, you and Alex, you guys came up through here, and you guys have made incredible careers over at 5 Reasons. But like a lot of you're alumni.
If it weren't for Heat Beat, there would be no Lefty Leif and all of this stuff. So I think that it's super dope to be back. I wish that I did it more often, but as you know, we are frequently recording episodes of 5 on the Floor. So that does take up most of the waking moments that are not to the kids and the fam, etc. So, but I'm definitely happy to be back, and I guess we have stuff to talk about finally. It felt like the season was dragging.
Yeah.
And now here we are. We got stuff to talk about.
We have so much to get to. Shout out to Mover81 for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. Shout out to the Frog 333 subscribed tier 1 for 11 months. That's the stuff we love to see. If you want a free subscription on Twitch, there is a link in chat. If you have Amazon Prime, gaming.amazon.com. Amazon Prime. Jeff Bezos so very graciously gifts you a sub, so you can subscribe here and use our emotes like the mechanic, although he hasn't played very well lately and he had a belt on the bench. We could get into that in a second. Leif, last night felt like, I don't want to say a turning point for them, because I was talking to some friends who are doing like NBA reporters, and they're like, oh, that's the worst loss of the season. I was like, I don't know, man. They lost to Detroit at home early in the season. That was pretty bad. It was certainly the most embarrassing one because of how public it was. And I don't even know where to start. I guess I want to ask you, like, do you think any of this is a big deal?
Oh, gosh. Why you got to hit me with the hard-hitting
That's a loaded one. Because we branch out.
No. This is good. You go straight to the heart of the emotion here. I actually do think that there is some significance to it. I do think it's important. Does it matter? Yes, I guess. So, like, that's the short answer to that question. I think we can dive into the different levels of what matters and what doesn't. And I'll tell you why I think it matters, because generally speaking, I think y'all know, like, I'm not an alarmist. I am not a canned food and bottled water head. Like, start, Armageddon, things are going to get bad. Like, that's not me. But so for me to have cause for concern, I feel like there is some stuff to talk about, but it's not doom and gloom yet, but there are some things about it that I think we should unpack.
Kenny, it was really the first time that they were in a legit media light. It was they were leading shows for the first time, and finally, right?
Finally.
It's
the monkey's paw
for like 3 months straight.
Yeah, beat Phoenix on the road without any of their guys. Just absolutely ran them out of the gym. We can get to that later. We have some things to talk about there. But Kenny, like, do they responded to that I think, in the moment, and then they kind of fizzled out. So, like, Kenny, I saw a little Leif. Do you know, before we kind of get into the micros, you know, in the macro, does any of that concern you?
The actual altercation, I would say no, but I do trust Leif in saying there may be more to it than that. But as far as from what I see from the outside looking in, they've had situations like that, whether it's Gabe Payton versus D Wade, whether it's Spo versus D Wade, whether it's LeBron versus Chalmers on the sideline.
And D Wade.
Yeah, and D Wade. Like, they've had these things before. So from my perspective, not really knowing the team like that, it just seems like another Miami Heat thing. We also know with Jimmy Butler, he's had those situations, and that's how he was raised in the league, really. I said yesterday, Taj Gibson and Joakim Noah taught Jimmy to, like, be that type of teammate. And that's the way those Bulls practices were, and he carried that along with him throughout his career. It didn't work anywhere pretty much except for sort of in Philadelphia and here in Miami. And so as of right now, I'm not going to necessarily sound the alarm. But they do have to figure that shit out because the playoffs are coming up.
I will say this, Leif. When that shit went sideways, and I don't know how many times you've watched all the angles of those videos, and I've watched them a ton because there is a lot of funny in it, including PJ Tucker picking up the papers and the clipboard after both. It felt like when your fucking older brother pisses your parents off, and like your parents throw some shit, and you're just picking them up like, oh, mom, he's sorry, like, you know.
You're kind of like the responsible one.
Yeah.
So you're going behind and like keeping things in order.
But did you see him before that? He took a sip of his Gatorade, took a deep sigh, and then got up. But Leif, dog, it was the vets. Like, it was Kyle and PJ that legitimately got them in the game. Because Jimmy didn't do a ton of shooting, and Bam looked a little bit out of sorts. And, you know, Kyle hit the back-to-back threes, hit Bam on a cut. You know, PJ, you know, had that and one layup and another putback. That's why Pat loves vets, man, because, like, that shit was sinking, and those dudes, you know, as embarrassing as I'm sure that was publicly, they righted the ship in the moment. Now I know that they lost it, but, you know, that could have been uglier.
Oh, yeah. And I think, like, that's something to watch. When is it? Friday? Is that when we play next?
Friday.
Yeah, so we got New York and Brooklyn. Everyone's like just talking about the Brooklyn game. That becomes the big topic of conversation, but we got a game before that. I'm interested to see what they look like after that. Because to your point, they like rebounded mid-game from that scenario. And I felt like, ooh, like this is actually good. Look, they have edge again. They look like they're moving around and they care again. And they had just been a little flat and clumsy, I would say. And then obviously that didn't transpire. So now like it has to translate once emotions have calmed and such. And I know you said we're going to get into the micro, but the reason why I'm alarmed by it is, I mean, one, there were some things that Ethan heard on the road that I think, and we can talk about just kind of how that was weird, but the way Spoelstra reacted, that's what gets me. And when I watch it over and over again, like I just have never seen him fly off the handle like that. And so like, there's just a part of that means to me that's been festering, that's been brewing. And so that bothers me. That's where I'm concerned. Otherwise, like if any team can deal with something like this, it's absolutely this group. You know what I mean? Like that's clear conscience. We're good. But it's just a matter of how long has Spo been holding on to that?
Not even with Hassan, he did that. And I'm sure he had moments.
I mean. And also like Jimmy's the max guy and you got UD pointing in his face, like being like, I'm gonna whoop your ass. Like I tweeted this, but I hate to reiterate it. Like, that's the kind of stuff he does to like punk Lance Stevenson on the sideline.
Dwight Howard.
Like to do that to Jimmy on the home floor, like when he knew everyone was watching, just to me, that means that like they had enough. So like whatever enough is, I'm doing air quotes as I'm here. I just am interested at that part. And that's what we're trying to chase down right now, information wise.
Everybody sided with the suits. When does, you know what I mean? Like, Kyle that's Jimmy's boy, right? Kyle's not even like having Jimmy's back. Like PJ's not, like Dedmon's not. Udonis is, you know, doing what UD's do. Like nobody in that huddle was with him, and they did great management.
The post game pressers, though, I'll just say Kyle and PJ were.
Kyle went out
brilliant.
first.
They're so smart. They're smart. They're like, okay, who can we send out there that's not gonna say some shit that's gonna make us feel uncomfortable? Kyle, you go. PJ, you go. And like that was it. We didn't see really anybody controversial. So that was well played by them too.
Jimmy didn't come out, right?
Oh hell no! And Spoelstra didn't come out first. Usually,
Spo comes out first.
Immediately comes in, says what he's going to say, and gets the hell out of there. He was like the third one, so it's just a weird night overall. It's little stuff like that you notice, and you're like, okay, people are a little off their game. They're knocked off their comfortable meter a little bit.
Kenny, what were you gonna say?
So I do want to say, they absolutely, positively, no question, needed this regardless, because like we've been saying, they have been sleepwalking through the season. And while we do want and expect them to get up and be 100% motivated all throughout, it's difficult when you have that big of a lead for first place, and you have the playoffs coming up, and you got to just get through this last 3 weeks of the season. It is difficult to get motivated. And also, seeing that yesterday, you can start to put pieces together. Like, okay, lately Jimmy has been like settling for weird shots when other guys are open. Maybe there is some stuff where people are a little frustrated with them, and it hasn't been a big deal. But now, whatever he must have said in the huddle must have gone ahead and just put some guys over the edge. But the thing that is comforting to me is other people's reactions. Nobody around them really seemed like it was that big of a deal. It was like just another day in the office. So that's the part that's encouraging to me.
Especially Duncan, because like Duncan seems like the kind of guy who would hide under a chair when something goes bad like that. You know what I mean? Like what's Duncan gonna do? He'd be like, shut up, just take your hand off. Like, but even Duncan was like, my favorite dunk moment. I love Duncan so much, man. He walks like, Spo's kind of coming back for Jimmy, and Duncan's kind of walking, and he puts his hand out. The same way you do when you're crossing a street and a car stops for you, how you kind of put your hand out like, hey, thanks, but stop. That's like Dunk did that move coming by. And I'm like, poor Dunk, man.
Think about I'm trying to think of who would have been most awkward in Heat history in that moment. Is it Luke Babbitt that's in that moment and is like, he can't handle it, can't hack it? Who else?
Oh my God!
I'm probably
Doliak, Michael Doliak.
What do we think of?
Kyle Guy would have been good.
Kyle Guy.
It's Kyle Guy in his hair.
Was he even there?
I don't think he was there. He's out, right? He has some sort of injury, right?
Yeah, at the nail tech.
Yeah, so that's funny. Leif, dude, the thing that stood out to me is that for the first time, I think, in Jimmy's career, that he's been like an A1 star, right? He is not the most important person in an organization. Because when he was in Chicago post-Rose, he's bigger than the owner, he's bigger than the GM, he's bigger than them. Because the banners in their building were put up 20 years ago, right? The people that in Philadelphia have never done any winning. He's bigger than the coach. He's bigger than he's bigger than everybody. In Minnesota, same thing. And he comes here. He is not bigger than the organization. He is not bigger than Riley. He's not bigger than Spo. And when UD is pointing a fucking finger at him, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, what the fuck have you ever done? You look up, I put that there. Spo and I put those up there. Not you. I played with that guy, with Shaq. That guy, Dwayne. That guy, Alonzo. You see them? We did that. Who are you? Right? And it's like, I don't know. It looked a little humble. I don't know. It was just it dawned on me that Jimmy's like, it was, I saw some tweet. It was like, LeBron wanted Spo out of there. This is like baby shit to him. You know what I mean? Like Jimmy's not like it.
That's
exactly. You know what I mean?
It's an interesting perspective, actually, that you say that. I don't think Spoelstra's phased. I actually think this was a moment where, to me, Spoelstra is like telling essentially everybody, like I run this shit. Like let's just
that's
make
job
sure
security right there.
And I like that. Like I mean, it's a Riley move, quite frankly. Like he's pulling out the Riley playbook. But there's also just and I don't want to keep cycling back to this, But what comes with that, why Spoelstra is who he is, why he was able to get through those things with Dwayne and those dust ups with Braun or whoever, is I felt like there was a level of composure, him poise that he always kept, and you didn't see it in front of everybody else. So for him to go so public with it, it's either a very strategic motivational tactic, which will one day be written in a book, similar to the Riley winner, within books, where he dunks his head in the ice bath or whatever. It'll be like Spoelstra's ways of motivating, or it could take the team in the other direction. So that's just where I'm real interested. This is like the most interesting Heat Knicks game since like Dwayne had a bloody face from Gallinari, like coming up on Friday.
No, Linsanity, man. Linsanity.
Oh, that's true.
Let me just say though, first of all, that was my absolute favorite Wade moment.
That was
bloody nose, that bloody
when,
yeah.
When
I know it's weird, like he had the championships, all that stuff, but being like I must have been like 13, 14 at the time watching that's the most exciting shit I've ever seen. But yeah, I think this is going to help the team more than anything. Like I said, they absolutely needed that. They've been sleepwalking. And Jimmy, I think to Leif's point, Jimmy absolutely is motivated by stuff like that. So you can't just you're probably not going to just talk to Jimmy softly and gently and get him to do what you need him to do. And so maybe this was the way to do it. Maybe Spo did add a little extra stuff in there. Obviously, there was real anger. Maybe he added something a little extra in there.
It's like Jack, Weird Alf, Jack Alfonso always says, Jimmy responds to shit talk. It's why Jack calls them edibles, because when you shit talk edibles, they kick your ass.
I love that.
Shout out to Jack, dude.
That's super dope.
Jay Jack says in chat, Spo over any player if we're honest, except Wade. I probably think that's true. I think Spo wins that.
I'm through putting anyone on top of Dwayne. We're never again.
In this market, nobody.
No.
Yeah.
But other than that, you got to build some major equity to go on in front of Spo now, right?
Yeah.
And Jimmy hasn't necessarily done that yet.
Hasn't won yet, really. I mean, again, that finals run was great, but again, the banners.
I hate that we're doing this. It feels dirty.
I don't want to. It's just it's just the reality of they're. And the reason why this, if this happened in Milwaukee, I think that obviously it would lead news, but I don't think it would be reacted like this. It's because they haven't won, and they shouldn't. I mean, Leif, they feel like they're coasting at times. I think Lowry justifiably has been coasting, and I think we've kind of seen lately he's been wrapping up the shooting, being the drop killer that we expected him to be, kind of getting to the rim more, which is, I think, natural for a guy his age. Jimmy's a lot younger, and I know Jimmy has a ton of miles, but Jimmy has looked like he's coasting a little bit. They played with more edge in some preseason games than they have in some regular season games. Like that first half against Detroit the other day, what the fuck was that? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I saw them play a preseason game where they were jumping into the damn courtside seats. They were playing with more urgency. So I think they know they're good. I think that they're just whatever, we're the 1 seed. It's probably unlikely that any of these teams touch us. We're good enough that we can, and they've been wrong, but I don't know, man. It's just weird. You had mentioned that, you think that some stuff might have been bubbling up, some stuff on the road. Mm-hmm. What's going on?
I can give you the quick answer there. Ethan went on the last road trip, and he hasn't been traveling, obviously, on the road for all, like a beat guy like he used to. But he hit up Philadelphia and, just heard from multiple people that are around the team that they were concerned about Jimmy and was taken aback by it. Because, we just haven't heard that kind of stuff come out of there often. And that was before this incident. So imagine I'm watching that Philadelphia game and they're blowing it because both of these games have been so annoying. They're playing teams with players you can't scout for, and that's always a hard thing to do, but they should, just by sheer talent, they should win, and they didn't. Knowing that the Jimmy stuff was kind of in the background and then seeing it manifest on the court yesterday, that's where I guess more of my level of concern comes from, is knowing that there was some of that stuff that was starting to creep out of that locker room. I won't say inadvertently, it was very much on purpose, but the fact that it spilled over onto the team showing it's just the timing of that I can't ignore. I guess the timing of the information I can't ignore at this point.
It's wild. And then the quotes from the Reynolds AP story about his coffee and like, oh yeah, winning's important to me, but, and then getting healthy is important to me, but, which in fairness to Jimmy, that quote was taken a bit out of context. It was just
Big
more
time.
of that he just wants to enjoy other things in life. Not unlike Chris Bosh, by the way. I mean, Jimmy's an interesting dude who
he's a normal human.
Yes. Check out Rohan Nankardi's piece in Sports Illustrated just about Jimmy in general. Just a super fascinating guy that has, like I said, like Chris Bosh, has a ton of interest outside of the game. But kind of those quotes come out, the stuff that you had told me. And
I miss Rohan.
I miss Ro too, man. We got to bring him back. He's the one national guy that is really out here batting for us, and Cortez.
Yeah, well, and he don't come on 5 on the floor. Like he's loyal to Miami. He beat, and I respect the hell out of that. Dude. But like I miss him, man. That's my homie. Anyway, let's continue.
One of the best. But for people who don't know, Ro's one of the best fucking people I've ever met. Dude's amazing.
Yeah.
Still hasn't been to Flanagan's though. He's ducking Flanagan's. You got to change that. What? He's never been to a Flanagan's.
It's Flanagan's and Steve's Pizza.
I don't know about Steve's, but I don't know. Steve's is a little North Miami, Leif. I'm West Kendall.
Oh, that's not Miami.
We have a Steve's.
That's another podcast.
Oh, that's another. All right, we'll go
too south, dog.
So, yeah, the stuff that you said is certainly interesting in that context. He's looked dejected at times, and at like that Milwaukee game on the road that they lost by 1. I don't know because like he doesn't have lift on the jumper, right? And the mid range shooting has been really down this year. The post up numbers have really gone down. After a really torrid start, he was absolutely devastating dudes in the post, not switch hunting as much, really just looking for the turnaround a lot. The free throw rate has gone down a little bit. If he's not just catching in transition and he's pump faking 5 times, he's just kind of looking for a post up and a turnaround, and then that's it. And his game has just felt a little different. And I don't know if it's tired legs because he's had a lot of miles, especially here and with Tibbs. I don't know if it's that, but he looks lethargic at times. And I don't know how to feel about that. And everybody that I've talked to, it's like, how do you feel about Miami? And they're like, I mean, I wouldn't pick them over the Bucks or the Celtics, but like they're good. I'd probably pick them over the Sixers and the Bulls. Like, they're like, okay, like they're in that tier, but like probably below. And it all comes back to like, no one really trusts Jimmy, and everyone's kind of scarred from the Bucks series last year. So, Leif, I don't know what to make of that, and I don't know how that even fits into the bigger picture of yesterday of just people just fucking fed up with him.
It's interesting because he's not shooting that much worse than he did his first season in Miami, and y'all are way quicker with the stats. So keep me honest.
Pulling it up,
I'm wrong.
Pulling it up.
But I'm pretty damn sure he's not shooting that much worse.
It's pretty similar from what I saw.
Even from like mid range, etc. And we're really, really upset about the mid range pull ups and the turnarounds and the 1-footed shots. I think
shooting 2 percentage points better for mid range.
There we go. See, so I have a theory here, and some of it's based on information, some of it's based on just like you have to start to become a little bit logical and critically think through some of this stuff. I had heard that they, we're looking at the late game offense, looking at kind of just the evolution of this team since the All-Star break, and it had been pretty clear that just this was naturally evolving into a offense that Tyler could flourish in, and he was really front and center. And I just think that some of what we're seeing, I don't know if it has to do with the push-pull of a star player, learning that maybe there are other players on the team that can be primary offensive options at times. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible because I don't want it to come across like beef. It's just the adjustment that any player would make when all of a sudden a dude is coming out of nowhere and all of a sudden leading the league or leading the team in scoring right alongside him. Like
everyone's not
that.
Dwayne.
I don't. Yeah, it's a different move. It's you got somebody on your doorstep, and for the team it's good. But I think each individual player has to they have to absorb that information on their own. And I don't know that Jimmy has necessarily gotten comfortable with that yet, because the late game stuff, why doesn't he facilitate more? When he came to Miami, we were talking about him as kind of like playing a lot of point guard stuff. And I just feel like he's gotten away from that a little bit, right?
He still does. So Kenny, I actually want to use Leif's point to springboard something that we've talked about before, but I looked at the numbers again, and it always concerns me. Jimmy plus Kyle plus Bam plus 9, 110, about 111 offensive rating. Not a very good offensive rating, but very good defensive rating, and that's obviously plus 9 net rating is amazing. Kyle and Bam, no Jimmy, plus 12 net rating, 121 offensive rating. Kyle plus Jimmy, plus 3, 122 offensive rating. When the three of them play together, and then Jimmy, Bam, no Lowry, plus 4, 111 offensive rating. There's something about Kyle plus another one without the other one that the offense is just boom, 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 boom. Typically, that's with Tyler on the floor. Tyler finishes possessions. Kyle organizes the offense, gets them into sets very quickly. Jimmy is a non-shooter. I think we've seen guys help off of him. He's an easy switch now, especially if you're a bigger guy. He's not as quick, so he's not really breaking guys down, especially without sets. So, like, that to me is a really interesting and important thing. Their offense with all three is just not good, and part of that's on Jimmy. A lot of it's on Jimmy, I would say.
It partially is, but at the same time, we just have to. So Kyle's past first point guard, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know past few weeks he should have been more aggressive, and he has been lately, but he's a past first point guard. But what happens now is the places you want to get Bam and Jimmy the ball are typically the same places. And so now you just have one guy screen it or whatever the case is. It's not really much of a threat. When you bring Tyler in, Tyler can create his own shot. He can score on all three levels. There's more room to operate. And so back to Leif's point, and it makes a ton of sense now because I think the turning point might have been that second Raptors. Well, no, whichever one was a triple overtime. And typically going into the season, going through the season, it was just no matter what, into the game, we're going to Jimmy. We're living and dying by Jimmy. There was one of those plays where they ran something for Tyler. It didn't work out, but they ran something for him. It was like, that's interesting. And now we come back post All-Star. Tyler's averaging 25 at one point, and Jimmy's kind of adjusting. But again, it's not anything I would necessarily worry about, but it is kind of a strange time for that not to be a smooth transition, considering the fact the playoffs are 3 weeks away.
They're still the second highest handoff team in the league. And they're getting less. They're the fourth most efficient on it, and it's under a point per possession. That's not great. And I think Leif, we wanted them to be a bit more kind of pick and roll heavy. They're near the middle. They're near the bottom as a pick and roll team. They rank about 20th in pick and roll frequency to score. I
think we just wanted them to pick one of those things and do it all the damn time and be like reliable with it, right? Like that's what I feel like is missing. And I think it's why teams are doubting. I don't like this whole that they're the Atlanta Hawks type 1 seed. I think that's bullshit. But I do think that like there is something to be said for the fact that like I saw Rohan tweet recently something about them not having a go-to play at the end of games and like those little things. So I mean, I do understand that part of it, and I think part of it stems from the fact that the things that we're used to them doing really, really well, they've done well. I mean, it's so weird because they lost these last 2 games. They still got the least losses in the Eastern Conference.
Yes.
It's like
they've only lost 10 home games all year.
I know. So part of this feels like, what are we getting too riled up about offense and about these little finer points? So that's why I think like it just puts the magnifying glass on the relationship aspect of the team that much more.
I do think their offense deserves concern. I think they post up, what are they? They're 12th in offense this year behind the Celtics, which we always make fun of them for their crappy offense. And, you know, they're 12th and they're winning games with defense. They're 5th in defense. And that has been a sliding scale because when Jimmy was out and it was Kyle and Bozos.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And not to call them Bozos, but Kyle and a bunch of G Leaguers and undrafted dudes. They were
top 10.
They were lighting everybody up. It was like spread pick and roll, you know, kick out to shooter, boom, boom. Not a lot of handoffs unless they have a drop man. And that was it, right? And then now it's, like you said, they don't have a go-to play. They're a little unorganized. They're, you know, I like when Kyle runs pick and roll with Jimmy. They don't do it a lot. Yesterday they did it, and Jimmy's just kind of rolling into help, and guys are helping off of PJ because he hasn't been the same. So that stuff is concerning to me. But last night, Leif, their defense was a fucking mess. And that's not who they are.
No.
That three that Poole or Wiggins got at the end, that last one, that was a 100% blown coverage on a night that you were absolutely like. That's the kind of shit that And Jimmy was like a disaster for the first half. And I've always said, Leif, you know this. I've said, Jimmy as his best has been better than Bam as a defender in their tenures as they've coincided. Mm-hmm. That has not been the case since Bam has come back, and he's lost a little bit of edge there. And I wonder if that's where this starts, because one thing is like you don't have it offensively, but like they all, Jimmy, Bam, PJ, Kyle, Spo, pride themselves as a defensive kind of minded unit, and that just wasn't there yesterday. And I think at times, I'm not going to say he takes possessions off. I'm just going to say that he's not at the level that you can expect from him.
No, and I think like to that point, in past seasons, although we may not love all the marketing ploys done, there were defensive player of the year metrics shared across the board for Jimmy and Bam. And this year you're not seeing any metrics shared for Jimmy. And it's all Bam. And so I think that just also speaks to it as well. Also, I'm not going to let you get away with the fact that you text me out of nowhere today and said, would I take Jordan Poole or Tyler Hero?
I asked. It was a conversation in a group chat. I asked you and I asked Troppy Baby. You want to know what Troppy Baby said?
What did he say?
He said, I'm not going to mince words. Tyler, but it's not by too much.
Yeah, he's thinking about it too much. It's Tyler, clearly.
I think.
But y'all know I'm a homer.
I had to ask because I was thinking about it. I was like, man, that Jordan Poole guy's fucking good. And
he did coming off the heels of the other night. Probably people are like, shut up, my sideline pumper.
I actually do have.
What you got, Kenny?
I actually do have a question though about like the offense the past 2 years already. So how much of this is Duncan just because obviously we know Jimmy and Bam kind of occupy the same spaces on offense. It could be a little difficult. 2020 they looked great, but also it's because Duncan was doing historical shit from the 3-point line. So how much of that now is if Duncan is just a really good shooter rather than 45% from three? How much was his crazy year just covering up what may have been issues that were already there?
I've said this a ton, Kenny. Nick Nurse found something in the bubble where he put OG Anunoby on Bam, and from that day on, it shifted because no one ever switched that action, because why would you ever switch? You always put your smallest guy on Duncan, or they were at the time, or you put like a just a guy to chase him around. Are you really gonna switch a twig onto Bam? Bam is a specimen of a human being. If you stand next to Bam, you're like, I didn't know they make people this size. Like he is like an Adonis of a man. He's huge. He's strong. That dunk he had yesterday, where that went under the radar off 1 foot. You didn't even think he was gonna make it, and he looked like he got higher after he was descending. It was like he's an incredible athlete. Why would anybody want to switch a guard onto him? And Nick Nurse is like, bet.
I see that you're still sneaking the Raptors onto these shows.
No, but that was a turning point for them because they're like, we can switch and then we can front on the entry pass, and they can't punish us. And Bam's a bad post-up player, and all his numbers are bad, and that's against mostly switches. And teams are like, fuck it, we'll switch that. So they switch their favorite action. And they don't have a response. Their only response, and it was in the bubble, it was, all right, let's get Jimmy to switch bust. Let's find a George Hill, a KCP, a Kemba Walker, and Jimmy's going to put him in the blender. Milwaukee last year, credit to Bud. Hedge and recover. They weren't letting Forbes get caught on a switch. They were keeping the drop man low because they know that Jimmy's not going to shoot. Frank Vogel did... I thought another thing that has been replicated was put Anthony Davis on Jimmy Butler and just drop, and they couldn't do anything. And Maxi Kleba was that. Doc Rivers did that with Embiid, put him on Jimmy, and then they just left a wing on Bam because they're not scared that he's going to punish them. And unless they're going to offensive rebound you to death, Leif, they don't have an advantage.
Kenny hit on it. Like, I think there's some validity to say that the crazy shooting and the kind of just like what was following Duncan around that season in terms of attention to his shooting could probably mask a lot of stuff at some points. And I know that like you're getting down into the playoff matchups where, Duncan didn't necessarily light anything on fire, but I was sitting next to Nikias in the Hornets Heat triple overtime, Jimmy's worst shooting game that game. And we're talking Heat Bucks and I'm like, so is it as easy as like when they switch on to Jimmy with the length that Bam just needs to dominate his matchup and that's as easy as how they're going to win that series? And he goes, nah, I actually think it has way more to do with the shooting. And if the shooters make shots in that series, I think that that's the key to it. And it had me kind of, taking it back a little bit, thinking about it differently. So I think Kenny's onto something that like, if these guys shoot well, and I know this is like super cliche, if the team shoots well, they're going to go far, but like
miss league,
like this particular roster, they really need the shooters to be like on some, we got shooter shit.
And because we see what happens when both Duncan and Max are off, the offense is just worse than in the mud. And
they
so
need two of the tres leches. They need two. Always. They can't do with one. They need two leches. It's never three. The three of them never play well together.
It's a problem when the leches are all like two of them are on very small contracts.
Yeah, the leches are just on especially Max. Oh God, Max was just a no-show yesterday. That was the other thing, Leif. The bench, Jimmy, what was it? Jimmy, Kyle, Bam, and Duncan combined for like 80-something points, which, I think you take that most nights. The bench just gave him flat out nothing. Oladipo gave him 7, right? Mechanic gave him 6, and that was it. Nothing from Strus, nothing from Martin, nothing from Keefe. They have not won games that way. They've won games by having a massive disparity, which their bench unit. Part of that is Tyler. And part of that is Dedmon's injury, because when Dedmon was healthy, he and Tyler would run roughshot over bench units. They were like plus 20 at one point for the season in like a not insignificant sample. Oladipo, 3 for 11. I'm not going to judge him yet. He's still working into it. Yeah. But I did think, Leif, it was interesting. They closed the game with Oladipo, and it didn't look great. The spacing is cramped. I don't think they have enough, but I did think that was interesting, and they didn't go Duncan, who I didn't think played bad. I don't know what the hell. Why does Spo never close with Duncan? I don't get that. He's never done it. Even the 2020 year.
I mean, Riley joked at the beginning of the damn year. He's like, he would close on a bad team. Like he said that in the first press conference of the damn season. So I don't. But like to your point about the bench, when you don't have Tyler coming off of it. Golden State had 42 off the bench too, so then it really feels like you're lean on the bench.
We do that to other people.
Correct, exactly. So it's like that role reversal don't feel so good.
But you know what? I do want to give credit to Gabe Vincent also, because he's been out, and I'm not sure how much he would have helped yesterday, although the Warriors bench did
would have put a damn body on someone.
Yeah, but more so the Philly game. I think with Tyler not shooting well that game anyway, and with Tyrese Maxey hunting those switches, I feel like they could have just put Gabe out there and kind of stopped the water from running sooner. So I do want to give Gabe a little credit. He has been out also. Maybe that hurts some. But you don't want to mortgage your wins and losses on Gabe Vincent at the same time. The team does have to be better. But I do want to give some credit to Gabe.
It's like we can't make it. Like they lost to like a shitty Warriors team that just lost to the damn Magic on the second night of a back-to-back, right?
Yeah.
Bro, you can't do that. Those guys lost.
I was making fun of Philadelphia a couple days ago, and then they beat us with nobody.
Bro, me too.
So, like, that doesn't work out for me.
That one didn't feel bad, Leif, because like Maxey hit a bunch of stupid shots at the end of the game, and the block on Caleb, you're just like, whatever.
Who's the other fat dude they had? They had like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Three-pointers.
Korkmaz.
Yeah, that guy. There's another fat guy too. They got a couple YMCA framed folks. Yeah, that's the other one.
They're shaped like frat boys. They're like totally at like Villanova. Is that the college over there? Shout out to Lowry.
Yeah,
fucking frat boys at Villanova. This is absolutely the Philly one. I mean, the Philly one bothers me because like fuck Philly, dude. Like I don't like the Sixers. I don't like anything those motherfuckers stand for.
But you can understand it. The one at home against Golden State, when you just had the same scenario take place on the road, it's like you think you would be, I don't know, and then things cratered worse. Like that's where I can't say it enough. This Knicks Nets,
Yeah.
like 2 games, like to see how they respond. It's going to tell us if they come out flat against New York, the fan base is going to have the dirty pants, as Dan Lebitard used to call it in the Big Three
The
era.
lemon booty. Well,
Right?
yeah. So,
Yeah,
but like
that too.
they don't have anybody playing. Like I just saw Ira tweet out the damn injury report. I'll pull it up. Like, and Leif, they always do this. When Jimmy had that shitty game against the Bucks, he didn't play the next night. They're like, oh, Jimmy's dealing with a sore, whatever. So Ira's report.
He's questionable tag right now.
Yeah. So Gabe Vincent's out, toe contusion. Victor Oladipo out. Jimmy Butler questionable. Kyle Guy out. Tyler Hero questionable. Caleb Martin questionable with a knee now, which I'm like, I don't like that. At least it's not the Achilles. Duncan Robinson questionable. Achilles, that's not good. Smart out. Tucker questionable knee. What?
Yeah.
So it's Kyle and Max show. Kyle, Max, and Bam show.
They've essentially made it where the Heat will have no prop bets up until 30 minutes before the game because we don't know who the hell is going to play. I don't know. I think that they need more games with all the rotation. I hope that
Is
they
that
don't
on
start
purpose?
sitting what?
I feel
that
like
injury
the next one's
report?
on
What the
purpose.
fuck is
I think
that?
so. I think it has to be. I think they care a lot more about the Nets having anybody there for that because that could end up being a first round matchup. And so Knicks, you can, I guess. I don't want them to lose because Knicks fans are so fun to make fun of.
Do you want to lose to RJ Barrett? Thank God we're off of Hangover Time tomorrow. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yo, they can't do this Philly game, this Golden State game, and then like the Knicks. It doesn't matter what state the Knicks are in.
Can't
like
lose.
you can't have them come in and win. Like that is going to be 9-1-1. I'm not even gonna be able to sunshine pump that one.
Fire drill that shit. Cortez won't even be able to spin that. It's just gonna. We're all gonna be. And thankfully, it's on a Friday, so we can forget about it until the next day.
That's true.
Yeah, it kind
No
of
programming.
Yeah. Just Friday games are great because if bad shit happens, you just be like, it's the weekend. We're not podding. Forget about it. Let's move on. Yeah. I mean, Leif, they can turn their. I mean, again, there's no season to turn around. The fucking 1 seed. Let's say they fall and they're the 2 seed or the 3 seed. That's a huge accomplishment. Enormous. Yeah. Minnesota fans talking shit last night. I'm like, you would kill to have this season.
Oh, for sure. It's all
what are you doing? Get out of here. You would do anything to have. Miami's having a better season than I think you've probably ever had in like any of your lifetimes. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm looking here. They're 10 games above 500. Minnesota, this is like a championship season for a franchise
Good for them.
Minnesota. So you just have to understand that. Like they feel like they're in the mix and they're in the 7th seed. Like,
they're in the 7th seed.
But they're in the mix, you know what I mean? But like there's 9 games left. The timing is weird on all of this. So, but you got a point. Like they can turn this around. If they come out and blitz these 2 teams and they look connected again, I think we can all forget about it pretty quickly.
If they vanquish the Kyrie and Durant like Nets, that'd
be good.
I bet
Good
nobody
for
will
the
talk
juice-
about it.
Get the juices flowing.
Nobody
Yeah.
will talk. Nobody will say shit. Saturday game. Nobody will say anything. Is it even nationally televised? I gotta check. I don't think it is.
Probably not, but they might need to add that.
NBA TV.
What are
Nah, it's
we?
barely-
What are we? The
yeah.
Pacers? Oh, because it's March Madness. That's
first
why.
round matchup.
March,
Oh, yeah.
these
Guaranteed
fucking-
NBA TV.
These fucking college kids. We've never been the NBA TV series. Thank
It's-
God for that.
It sucks when you don't care about college basketball. It just feels like it's in the way.
It does. I'm just like, why?
G really hates it.
You know
He's
what I mean?
always
It's like,
hated
shout out to the Canes. Are they still in it? I think
They
so.
are.
Yeah.
And they have a good chance to get to the Elite Eight.
When Wisconsin lost, I know
But that's
that.
the extent of my analysis.
All I know is that I really wanted the Heat to draft Kenny Kadji that year. You remember that, Leif?
I do.
I was
do.
in on
I
Kenny
remember him
Kadji.
well.
I was the only college basketball I've ever watched. And I was like, I like this Kenny Kadji. Stretch big. Perfect front court partner for Bosch. I've been saying it for years.
There's a couple guys that went through there that I wanted the Heat to get, and it never happened.
I
Larkin's
still want Lonnie Walker.
Larkin's a
somehow.
class trader. Do you remember what Larkin said when he was on the Nets? He's like, you talk shit about Miami as a city. I was like, well, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you out then.
Class
He ain't
trader.
from Miami though, is he? Maybe
his
I'm wrong.
Dad, I don't know. Where does his dad play baseball? Does his dad play here?
Like
Dog,
St. Louis or
asking me
something like that?
baseball questions. That's
Yeah.
like
You
asking
think
me pop
you
music
think I know baseball? Kidding. That's not.
Yeah, baseball is only cool when you're at the game, not paying attention to it anyway.
I went out with a girl and she asked me if I liked baseball, and I was like, "You are barking up the wrong tree." She's like, "You like baseball and Formula One?" I go, "I like tennis and basketball. That's all I got for you."
Yo, the last baseball game I went to was the 1997 World Series game. I was like a little kid, and I ain't ever been back to a baseball game since then.
The last baseball game I went to, Brass's brother got so drunk he had to get his stomach pumped as Alpha and I went to Bull Bar. That's a true story. And Brass missed us going to Bull Bar. Bull Bar doesn't exist anymore.
That's a shame.
You know what happens at Bull Bar, Leif.
I do.
Brass missed it. Yeah. We went to Heat Twitter group. I want to close out the show with a couple of things. I want to ask you specifically, both of you, about the Celtics, because I was talking to our homie Kev, and he's like, "Have you guys talked about the Heat and the Celtics?" And I go, "To be honest with you, not really, more than a passing thought, because Alpha's scared of them, because they haven't really played a real game yet. The Celtics are 3-0, but none of those games have mattered. I think the only game that was healthy was the first one, and that one felt anomalous. That was in their 6-1 start or whatever, and that just felt like a schedule loss. I think it was 4 games, 5 nights or whatever. I straight up, and this is gonna be me gutless after I did the rant yesterday and all that shit. That's the one matchup I don't watch. I don't really know how they win that, especially if Caleb's not springy. You know what I mean? They present every issue that you could see. Their defenses, they have the number 1 defense in the league right now, ahead of the Warriors and the Suns. They switch everything, which is Miami's problem. The putting Time Lord on the weak side as a helper just absolutely neuters even their advantages if they get a slip off Bam. So if they how they did in the playoff in the bubble, what they were doing was running Gore and Bam pick and roll. They would switch, Bam would slip, and then that help rotation came, and then Bam was picking guys apart with Jimmy as a cutter or whatever. Rob is so good. He makes that pass really hard. He comes really early, and he comes with a lot of size, because that help used to be really, really small, because they would leave whether it was Tice or whoever the fuck, or Grant Williams or whoever on the ball with Bam. Now they'll put a 4. It might be Tatum, it might be Brown, it might be Smart, and then they'll have the size coming in to help. So now they can't even run their little slip actions. And unless they do that empty corner stuff, which might be a little bit difficult because the Celtics can just switch everything, I'm not too sure how they score, Leif. And I think that Miami can do a good job kind of keeping them in check defensively, but I just really don't see how Miami scores.
That's a free throw series. That's how they would have to win it.
That's horrible.
I don't, because I think you're right. A lot of that stuff is applicable. Milwaukee and Boston are the 2 teams that I would least like to match up with.
Ooh, I like Milwaukee.
Really?
I like it. I like them. They eat drop.
Schematically, I could be talked into it, but there's just something about, I don't know.
I want the trilogy, man. I want the trilogy.
That'll be fun.
I want that.
But I wouldn't be as scared of Boston as you really painted them as a juggernaut. And I know since the turn of the new year, they've been that basically. But again, we talk about peaks and valleys of a season and peaking too early, etc. Let's just see how they make it through the first round. Before I don't know. I just feel like if Jimmy's on his game, if Bam is aggressive, all the things we always look for, they get to the line enough, they can mitigate some of that switching stuff. But it is concerning a little bit.
Since All-Star break, the Celtics are 12-2 with the best net rating in the league. By the way, the Magic, the feisty Orlando Magic, have the number 1 defensive rating post All-Star break. I think that's funny.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, they scare me defensively, not so much offensively, because yes, while we know what Jason Tatum is capable of on the offensive end in the positive, we also know what he's capable of on the offensive end negative. His shot selection does get a little weird at times. There are ways to kind of slow them down in a sense on that end, but you are right about the defense. I don't see any holes in the defense necessarily that would kind of motivate me a little bit to be a little bit okay, well, calm me down a little bit, because like I said before, last time they played against Boston, Robert Williams was just young, athletic, undisciplined, jumping at everything. His IQ is way up now. He's making all the right rotations. He's not falling for a ton of pump fakes and stuff like that. So you can't just outsmart him anymore. So that concerns me. But their offense did also get stagnant, similar to the Heat's, even though they have offensive talent like Tatum and Brown. So it's pretty much what Leif is saying. It's going to have to be a real dogfight, and the Heat are just going to have to find a way to pull one out. I know it's going to be a hideous series if it does happen.
Fucking rock fight.
Yeah, so it's possible.
Pat's going to love it.
That is the only team that gives me any concern, really.
Pat's going to love it. The game's going to be in the 80s.
Yeah.
I
mean, there's all kinds of matchups there. And, I mean, I'm happy that the Derek White acquisition hasn't been that great. Because I did think initially when I first saw it, I'm like, ooh, that's a Heat killer moment. Ugh. But
he's doing well. He's just not shooting well enough for them. But, I mean, he is. So I was obviously kind of like thinking, like, well, who closes for them? I don't think Horford can survive in a series against Miami.
That's where I was kind of leading, yeah.
So like, they're going to have to go White. And I think White's the guy that Jimmy has to hunt, right? Because it's not going to be Smart, Jalen, Tatum, or Rob, and it's going to have to. And White's a really good defender, so, hunting Derek. I mean, but so is KCP. KCP is a good defender, and so is George Hill. But Jimmy's just going to have to find the dude that he's stronger than. I think that's a Kyle and Bam series more than anything. I think that Jimmy might get they might put Rob on Jimmy, as we've seen. They might, Tatum's really long, and so is Jalen. That to me is a Kyle series, and I still have Kyle, man, superhuman in the bubble against them when they lost that amazing 7-game series. Leif. I was talking to Alex, came over to my house to watch the Sixer game. We were talking about just how Kyle functions as a processor. He's not like LeBron levels, but he sees the floor and what's going to happen so much quicker than even Jimmy and Bam. And
he's only not LeBron level because he ain't 6'9".
Yeah, and
so
LeBron
can't see that much further over everybody. But otherwise, he's absolutely got that same vision. It's crazy.
He's like,
I didn't realize it until I got to watch him every night.
He's a genius. Like, he's like a legit basketball genius. Like, he just sees shit, and he's so. Zach Lowe uses the term persnickety and almost defiant in how like he doesn't want to shoot or shit. He has a very, I don't even know if quirky is the right word. It's just, he's a fucking weird guy and he plays weird. But when he's on, as you've seen, like he'll, it's funny because he'll be adverse to shooting and he'll be the fucking fastest guy to pull up off a handoff. Like he'll go up, like he's not even like fully around the screen yet and he's going up, right? And he'll be so trigger ready, and other times it looks like that shit has the safety on. You know what I mean? It's truly
like those.
Go ahead.
Sorry, cut you off. But like those games early in the season where he'll look terrible for 3.5 quarters, and then he'll just score 14 straight. And you're like, where'd this come from? So I see what you're saying.
He can probably manipulate. If he can get Rob on him, and Caleb did some of this. When he would get switched on to him, Caleb was kind of beating him consistently off the dribble. That's something I can see Kyle kind of going at for them, and he's going to be able to. The Celtics are going to collapse and they're going to send help off the corner man, whether that's PJ or hopefully it's not Jimmy or whatever. But he's going to be able to kind of pick that help apart, and that's kind of where I can see a little bit of daylight for them, and then kind of get Bam going. On the side of the Bucks, I don't really know how Miami stops them from scoring, because Miami is just so principled of, we are going to help from the corners, we are going to stunt on the drives, we're going to send a ton of help, and we are going to vacate the corners, and we're going to rotate. Milwaukee gets the ball out so quick when help comes, and that's why those games are always like Chris Middleton 3-point bonanzas, right? So both teams score a ton of points, but Milwaukee, if Lopez isn't right, I don't really know how many options they have, and they might have to put Giannis at the 5 because they can't drop. And Leif, they were doing stuff. The game in Miami when they didn't have Jimmy and Bam, they put Giannis at the 5 because they were handoffing them to death with Portis. They put Giannis at the 5, and Giannis was playing at the level of the screen. He wasn't switching, but he was at the level, and they were using PJ at the 5 to trigger handoffs. And the way that PJ was able to seal Giannis, and they were able to get Max, or whatever shooter it was, I think the fourth quarter was Max. It was a Max went crazy game. They just can get offense against them because they just don't. They can switch, but they don't do it enough. And if they start switching guys like Middleton, who I think has slipped a bit as an on-ball defender, and guys like Connaughton and some of their other kind of weaker links on defense, they lose
advantage of it.
what they have. And I just, man, if not for a weird game Vincent inbound, they're 3-1 and they have a win in their building and 2 blowouts in Miami. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're really, really good. And that series is going to be a 6 or 7. That series is going to be so fun, like aesthetically and like tactically. But man, because like the Bulls don't scare me. The Sixers The Sixers don't scare me.
No.
Embiid will have to put up 40 a night, and he could do it, but like he'd have to put up 40 a night for them to like legitimately, I think, have a chance.
It's Milwaukee and Boston.
Yeah. So I'm so ready for the playoffs, and it kind of sucks that happened yesterday because we should all be like gearing up to like, all right, guys, who we want, who's coming in here to get their ass kicked, and now we're like, oh my god, now we got to go in Boston. Now we're only a game. So it's tough. Man, Leif, I love you, my man. Thank you so much for making the time for us. For coming on. I kept you a little long. I'm sorry, but
it's all good.
If I have you to talk hoops, sometimes I'll call you on a weekend and shit to pick your brain, but it's nice to do this with the people.
For sure. And I'll be back soon when we are getting ready to head into the NBA Finals. I think it's customary after we get into the finals that I always come visit y'all again. So I'll see you then. We got the guts for this, man. This is just a little blip on the road here.
We got this. The Sunshine Pumper has logged on. Make sure to check out all Leif does with 5 on the floor. Floor is yours. 5 reasons. The great work Ethan and Alex and everybody over there does. Brady Hawk, star in the making. Let me say something. Brady knows how to social media, man. Brady knows how to Twitter better than any of us. Brady's the king.
He's building it at an unbelievable level.
Elite. He's elite at Twitter. He fucking pumps shit out, and you're just like, damn, Brady makes great points. Killing it. Shout out to everybody.
I gotta
go. Shout out to everybody over at 5 Reasons. Shout out to Kenny. Happy birthday, Siobhan. Not on today, but it's Bond's birthday. We love her. We appreciate her. Shout out to the great Bond. We have an announcement coming up in about an hour at MIA Heatbeat, so check that out. And we will see you guys on Saturday for a Weird Off pregame show. No hot or WAP tomorrow. Peace.